Hi, my name's Dave and I'm the Skint woodworker. In this episode we've already got our pieces of wood from our pallets in the previous episode. Now what we're going to do is make something. And what we're going to make, if I can pick up the piece of paper, is a bird box. I'll put that image on the screen so you can see dimensions and things like that, so you've got a better idea where we're going. I've got my pieces of wood. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to move the camera angle so you can see what I'm about to do next. First of all though, is we've got to mark up these pieces of wood, and then we're going to get to cutting them out and assembling our bird box. Okay, so I'm just going to change camera angles and get straight back to you. Okay, well the first thing we need to do is we need to take a look at our drawing and decide which pieces of wood. I've got three broad boards here that I got from another pallet. I've also got a lot of smaller, slimmer bits as well, and we're going to use both on this project. The first thing we need to do is we need to have one end of the board with a straight line on it. That's really important. Let's just grab a pencil. I'm going to use an adjustable square like this, but you can use all sorts of things to actually get a square line. So there's my square line, and it is already squared. There's the line, and it is squared around the corners as well. But if you haven't got a set square, remember the paper trick we did last time, where you literally put a fold that's parallel. It must be parallel, and you can put that on the board like so, and you can square around that, and that will give you a square edge. Or if you've still got the various set squares and what have you from school, you can actually use one of those. What I would do with that is I get myself a little piece of wood, put it against the board, and then put the set square against there and draw my line that way. All of those ways will work to get you a straight line. So what I'm going to do that with each board first and cut down that line, so I know that's dead square. And then we can grab our tape measure, and from our plan we can start marking out the various boards. Okay, I've marked the ends of all my boards with just a square line and marked it down on the edge as well, so that I've got a line to cut to. So what I'm going to do first of all is saw each of these boards, and then we'll go back to the bench and we'll mark them all out. So let's just saw them there. Put your thumb against the side of the blade there. Okay, draw it back and just follow the line. And as you get near the end here, slow down. Don't push. You're not pushing, you're letting the saw do the work. Keep your knee on the board, because we're not using any fancy tools. And just hold that piece of scrap wood. And there we go. And it hasn't splintered it off on the back edge. Right, I'm going to do the other three, and then we'll go back to the bench and look at marking them all out for their correct sizes. Okay, I've got each end cut on all three boards now. Now two of them are going to be the front, if you can see that, front and the back of the birdhouse, and then the other piece will be the base. So the base is quite straightforward. The base is The width of these boards, which are currently, they are 5 3/8 or 137 millimeters. So we're going to build our box that width. We're not messing about cutting down the length of the boards. All three of these boards are the same width. So I need this board to be 12.5 centimeters from the front edge to the back. So that will be there. And I'll use my set square to mark that. So that's the piece we want for there. That's, I don't know actually, this piece might actually be big enough. It is. So we can not only get the base out of this, we could also get either the back or the front out of it with one cut. So I think what we'll do is we'll lay that one to one side for a second. And that's what we'll do with that piece. So we now need, if that's going to be, let's say, the base and the back, then this piece will have to be the front. And the front, at its longest point, is 230 millimeters. So that's there. So we'll mark that on there. But remember, this is going to be pointed. So it's going to be like a house. So it's going to be that kind of shape. So we now need to get the other measurements, and the sides are 16 millimeters. Sorry, 16 centimeters. So that is there, and the same on this side, and there. Now, if you want, you can simply measure one of them and then transfer it across. Either way works, it doesn't matter. Then the other thing we need to know is where's the center of the board. And this one, as I say, is 137 millimeters, which is a bit of a weird measurement. But so half of 100 would be 50, half of 30 is 15, and we've got 7. Half of 7 is 3.5, so that's 1, 2, 3.5, so it's there. And we can always double check that by doing that. That gives me 67 and, yeah, 67. Something's wrong there. My measurements are off because I've slipped. It should be there. There we go. That's 66, 67. Yep, that's it. That's the centre line there, that one there. So we now need to draw a line. I'll use a ruler for this, but you could use the square as well. From there to there. So one line there, and the other line from there to there. Okay. Now when we've all got it in one piece, we've also got to figure out where this hole is. And I haven't actually put any marks on that. It doesn't really matter, it just needs to be somewhere in this area. So what I'm going to do is say, well, two things first of all. First of all, we need a centre line. And one little trick you can do is you can simply get your fingers against the side of the board and a pencil and just run down the board. And there we go, there's our centre. We can mark it across there. I don't want it quite that high. I think we'll go a little bit lower. We'll go there. Right, so there's our centre. So we will be putting a hole in that one. Now what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to cut this one out first. I'm going to saw that, and then I can lay that one on top of there, and we can mark the second one and using that one as a template. So let's get back to the saw bench, do that. I think I actually missed that one, so I may have to cut that one again. For some reason my camera didn't record me cutting that one, so I'll mark this one out as using it as a template, and then you'll see exactly what it was I did. Need a pencil, just a second. Okay, so here's our other piece of wood, and the end with the squiddly line was the one that was square. So we'll put that piece of wood onto there, like so, and literally use it as a template for my two other lines. And just to make life a little bit easier, because the point isn't right at the end of the board, I'm going to put the extra lines on this. I'm going to extend them so I'll know where to start my cut. Okay, so we'll go again. Oops. This one's been a bit, this one is binding a little bit in the cut. There we go, that's that one. And one more. So draw the saw back nice and lightly. Just get it nice and firm in there. And at this point, put your knee on it. Use your spare hand to hold the actual piece of scrap. And just let the saw do the cutting. And there we go. So now we've got a front, a back, and we've got a base as well. I'm going to go back to the bench and we'll show you where we go from here. Okay, so we've got our front, our back, and our base. Those are the three main parts that we need right this second. What we have got to do now though is we need to drill a hole in the front one, and that will be for the actual bird. And we need to drill another smaller hole in this one so that you can put a screwdriver through that big hole and put a screw in there, because we are going to make a roof on this, but the roof must be removable. It's very important that the roofs are removable, because each year after the birds have fledged, you need to be able to clean out the old nest in there, and then they'll create a new nest the following season. So where we're going to put these holes, I haven't actually marked a dimension on my plan for this, but I'm going to sort of guesstimate it, if you like, and I think it should be sort of round about here. Would look about right. So let's see what that would be in terms of a measurement. Let's say 14 centimeters. No, let's go 14 centimeters. So we'll put a line there. I'm just going to create a little cross. I don't know where exactly the center is just at the moment. Now this board is just shy of 14 centimeters. It's about 1.5 mil, so we'll do just under 7, and that'll be near enough. Now then, what do we do about drilling holes? What are we going to use? Well, one option is, if you've got one, is a cordless drill. If you have got one, that makes it dead easy, really. Well, what if you haven't got an electric drill of any description? Well, you could use an old-fashioned sort of Stanley or one of these makes, where you just basically put the drill bit in there and you turn the handle and you drill a hole that way. Or you might even have in your grandfather's shed one of these old-fashioned bracing bits, and even this will actually go down to quite a small size, so we could even put a small drill like that in there, tighten that up, and we could use that. In fact, I'm actually going to use that. Now what I am going to do is, rather than go back over to the workmates, I'm going to do it here on the bench. So I'm going to put my drill onto the mark, and I'm literally going to do that. Now that is seriously old school. I'm going to stop before I get all the way through the bench. Okay, I'm going to put the other one underneath. And you may think, well, why are you drilling a small hole when the actual hole you need is quite a big hole? That will become apparent in a moment. So there we go. Oops, we've gone through the first one, we're into the second one. Just wind that back out. So that we've marked our second hole. That's where our second hole is. So before I drill through my bench, I'm just going to hang that just over the edge. In fact, I won't even do that. What I'll do is I'll put a scrap of wood underneath it. That's even easier. So, and we've gone right through. Oh no, we haven't. No, I think it just slipped. There we go. There we are. Now we're through. It's been extremely difficult to pull out. Right, there we go. So we've got two small holes. The reason for doing that is I now know they're exactly in the same position. One of them will literally just become a hole to put a screw in, and we'll deal with that later. This one is the one where we need a very particular size hole, because this is the front of our box. Now, depending on what bird species, if for example it's blue tits you want to attract, the hole needs to be 25 millimeters. If it was sparrows, tree sparrows, it'd have to be 28 millimeters. And if you wanted house sparrows, it would have to be 32 millimeters. Now it doesn't matter which size you use, it's just that the birds prefer different size holes to make their nests. So I'm going to have a look at this and see what I've got here. I've got a 25 mil. Now this is just an ordinary flat bit. Normally with this type of a drill, you use the Olga type bits, which look like, I'll find one. They'll look like this. Can you see that? They look like that. In actual fact, if I'm dead lucky, no, it's a little bit too small, that one. That one's only 23 mil. It's just a bit on the small side, and that's the biggest one I've got of those. Oh no, I tell a lie. I've actually got another one. This one is, believe it or not, it's 38 mil, which is probably the old 1.5 inches. And that's going to be too big for our biggest one, so I haven't got a suitable one. So, like everything else, it's a workaround. So we'll go with the flat bit, but we'll use it in the bracing bit. Just undo that a bit so it'll fit in. There we go. Tighten it up. Now, I am going to put this in the vise to do this. I'm just going to tip the camera up a bit so you can see a bit clearer what I'm doing. There we go. Just because, but you could do that in the workmate, or you could do it if you've got a gap between two pieces. I could do that, and that could be two pieces of wood. It doesn't have to be the vise. And and then you could literally work down like that with it and do that. But I'm going to put it in the vise because there's something else I want to show you about drilling clean holes in a piece of wood like this. So I'm going to stand back here. That little drill hole we put in is perfect as a pilot hole. I'm going to work away like that, and it turns out that this is a very blunt drill. And have I got another 25mm one? I have. Let's see if that one's any sharper. That might be why I put a piece of red tape around it. Now, you'll notice that the tip of the drill, if I put the drill back in, is just coming through the board. At this point, if you turn the drill around, or turn the wood round, and go from the other side, then you'll get a nice clean hole. It won't be all chewed up. Whoops. There we go. And there we are. We've actually got a clean hole. It's not as easy with that flat bit as it would be with a proper auger bit. But equally, if you've got a cordless drill, then it spins around a lot faster and it's a lot easier. But the little thing about turning the wood round and drilling from both sides still holds true regardless. Now that hole, it's a bit on the small side, but it's not the end of the world. It indicates where our screw needs to go through, so it'll probably be fine. So what we're going to do now is let's just shift all these out of the way. Is we can start to assemble this. That's going to go on there. Actually, I'll do it that way around. That's going to go on there like so. And that's the basis of our bird box. I'm actually going to turn that one around that way, I think. It's going to be like that. But what we need to do first of all is we need to glue and nail those together. Once we've got those glued and nailed together, then we can measure for the side pieces, we can cut those, and then we can look at the roof. So let's get some glue, get some nails, and take it from there. Okay, I've got some glue. The only important thing about the glue is that it's an exterior glue. Doesn't matter what brand, it really doesn't make any difference. It just needs to be an exterior, not an interior glue. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to nail this to that. And what I'm going to do is I've got a little block of wood here. So I'm going to put that one on each side like so. I'm going to rest that onto there like that. And that's how we're going to nail that onto there. One of the little tip is, when it comes to nails, if you're going to nail on the edge like we are now, especially with a nail like this, the chances are your wood is going to split. And what you can do is get your hammer and literally just, oops, can't see it there, can I? I'm literally going to just try and, there we go. I'm literally just going to blunt the nail a little bit. And if I drive that in now, all being well, about there, can you see how the nail's actually following the grain? It's got at an angle. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to put another one in over in this side. Again, I'm just going to blunt the end of the nail first. And you think, well, why are you doing that? Well, rather than spreading the fibres of the wood apart, it's punching a hole down through them. And it's particularly important when you're near the edge of a board. There we go. Looks like there was an old knot on the back of that, but never mind. Right, so wood glue. You can be reasonably generous with the wood glue, it doesn't really matter, but because most of this is actually held together with the glue. Now if you want, and you've got a screwdriver, you could screw these together if you wanted to do that. Actually, I'm going to do the other one first because that one's at an angle. There we go. There we go. It doesn't need more than a couple of nails. That's plenty strong enough. So turn it around, put that on there, and we'll put the back on now. Same thing again. Before I start that, 2 more nails. Blunt the ends. Don't hit too hard or you'll bend the nail. And again, that one's following the grain of the timber. It just so happened this little piece was the same length. I didn't do it deliberately. It's from the other day when we were breaking pallets up. There we go. Make sure there's plenty on there. Place it on there. Get everything nicely lined up. There we are. Hold on to that piece of wood. Once the nail's flush with the wood, don't keep hitting it, otherwise all you do is put great dents in the wood and bruise it. But that'll be fine now. You could, if you've got a nail punch, you could punch them a little bit lower, but it's not really necessary. So there's the basic frame. Now what we need to do is create the side pieces. And this is where the short pieces of timber came in from when we were cutting our pallets apart. Now you'll notice these are pretty splintery on the ends, etc. They've not been squared up or anything yet. But we are going to put them on horizontally. I'm not going to bother planing the edges. If you have a plane, you can do that. No problem at all. But I'm not going to bother. I'm just looking now at the distance and what's going to happen when we get near the top of this and the roof comes down like that. And it's not looking too bad at all. I'm not worried about those little gaps. They don't matter. The birds aren't going to worry about that. They'll be perfectly happy with a bit of fresh air blowing through there. I mean, if you really want, you can take them up. You can take them up to the top, like so, and do it like that. Or we can have a route round and see if we've got any wider pieces of wood. But I think these are all the same width. Or would it be better? See, those aren't wide enough, and these have got a bevel on them as well. So none of these pieces of wood are exactly ideal. We could use that one, I suppose. I think we'll go with the slim ones for now. Those will work quite nicely. So it's the same thing again. Well, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to square up the end, and then I'm going to get the tape measure, and we'll measure that one's a little bit more. That's better. And I make that 6 5/8 or 168 millimeters. So what we need now is at least 4 and possibly 5 lengths. So I'll show you why we might need 5. So let me get these cut and then I'll get back to you. But again, it literally is just going to be a case of take the end of your timber and square it across. Right, that's where it needs to be. Now, it's quite hard to sew that close to an edge. So what I would do is I'd come in a few millimeters first, quarter of an inch, whatever. And that's the line I would cut to. You'll find that's a lot easier to do. So I'm going to cut, as I say, 5 of these, and then I'll come back to you after that.